And now, Backstage Wife, the story of Mary Noble and what it means to be the wife of a famous star. Wealthy Rupert Barlow's interest in Mary Noble is being rekindled as he believes she will make a full recovery from the acid burns inflicted on her face and hands by the crazed and jealous Claudia Vincent. And so his plans for a cruise south on his yacht are changed until further facts are available. Right now we find him in his luxurious apartment overlooking Central Park in Manhattan. As his man Victor approaches with a tray, we hear...
Just put it down there on the table, Victor.
Don't you want me to mix you a drink for you?
No, thank you. I'll fix it when I'm ready. Right now I'm busy trying to find an important address. I'm sure I put it in this desk somewhere.
You want me to give you a hand, boss? If you want to tell me what it is.
I don't.
Okay, then. I was only trying to help.
When I need your help, I'll ask for it.
Yeah, I guess you will at that. You've done it often enough before.
That's enough of that kind of talk, Victor. You may as well understand that I won't have you adopting that disrespectful tone now that I've taken you back in my employ.
Taking me back? How do you like that? As if you could get along without me, knowing all I know about you and the stuff I've helped you pull off.
That's enough, Victor.
I'd say it's enough, Mr. Barlow. Maybe you think you can just go on letting me be the fall guy whenever you get yourself in a jam. I'm the one who has to take the rap. I'm the one who gets kicked around.
You've been well rewarded for doing the simple favors I've asked of you. And you're lucky I've taken you back again. I understand from Miss Julia that you've given her endless trouble at the Long Island house. That's got to stop, Victor. I won't have you disrupting the household staff. Do you understand?
Sure. I understand, all right. I understand plenty.
You will address me in a respectful tone in the future.
Yes, sir.
That's better.
Is it all right for me to ask a question, sir?
Yes, of course.
I thought you said a few days ago you were going to take your boat out and cruise south for a few weeks.
Well, what about it?
When do we leave? Getting kind of late in the season. It'll take maybe the better part of a week to put the boat in commission. So?
For the present, I've decided to stay right here.
Then we don't go at all?
I may change my mind later. Right now, I don't want to leave New York.
Oh, so that's the way it works out. I guess that means Mrs. Noble is going to be okay when she gets out of the hospital.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, that dame can spoil more plans than anybody I ever knew. I suppose now her husband's out in Hollywood making a movie. You figure you got the inside track.
I've warned you before about speaking disrespectfully of Mrs. Noble. I won't have it. And I don't intend to warn you again.
Yes, sir. What's the use of trying to reason with a guy like that?
Confound that man. He's getting out of hand again. I ought to fire him for good, if he wasn't so capable. After all, there are times when an unscrupulous fellow like Victor is more useful than a dozen perfectly trained servants. Oh, confound it, where could I have put that name? I jotted it down on the back of an envelope, thinking I might have need for a reliable investigator. Right now, it might prove very profitable to have someone keep an eye on Larry Noble out there among the movie stars, just in case he might be indiscreet. I knew it was here. This is the fellow. I'll call him right now.
And meantime, in her room in the New York hospital, Mary Noble is talking with her doctor as he finishes dressing the burns on her face. And we hear...
Are you still going to refuse to let me see how I look, Dr. Allen? Couldn't I just have my hand mirror for a minute?
I advise you to wait just a little longer, Mrs. Noble. I'm sure you'll be well rewarded for waiting.
But I am improving, isn't that true?
You're making a most remarkable recovery, my dear. I believe I can safely predict that your face will not be seriously disfigured. We may have to remove a bit of scar tissue later on, but that needn't be a worry at the present time.
Then you don't think that the effects of the burns will be terribly noticeable? I mean, you don't think people will want to avoid me because of the way I look?
Certainly not, Mrs. Noble. You shouldn't allow such thoughts to enter your head. Surely you must know that your loved ones and your friends could never feel different toward you, no matter what kind of accident you suffered.
No, I'm sure they'd try not to let the way I look affect them.
But you think it might. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, don't you think it's only natural, Dr. Allen, for someone close to me to be very much affected if there were a terrible change? Particularly if he felt some inner conviction of guilt. I don't suppose this makes much sense to you, Dr. Allen, but I've thought about it such a lot.
On the contrary, Mrs. Noble, I understand your meaning perfectly. And I can only say that you must not allow yourself to be worried needlessly. You need have no fear that your burns will leave scars that will cause you serious embarrassment.
Oh, that's a wonderful relief, Dr. Allen. You don't know what it means to me. I'm going to write down everything you've said and tell my husband at once.
I am sure he'll be greatly relieved.
Oh, yes, I know he will.
Mrs. Noble, are you quite sure you are easy in your mind about your husband's trip to the West Coast?
To Hollywood? Oh, yes, Dr. Allen. It was the only thing for him to do. He had a picture offer, and he couldn't turn it down.
Wouldn't it have been possible for him to go back to work here in New York?
No, Dr. Allen. You must understand that this time of year it's very difficult to find a suitable play. Of course, if Larry's former producer, Harold Ramsey, had been able to reopen Larry's last play, that would be quite another matter. But as things are, Larry just couldn't say no to this picture offer.
I see.
But I thought you understood all that, Dr. Allen. I thought Larry explained to you that he wanted me to have the best possible care, and any specialist you might want to bring in. If you're worried about his ability to meet his obligations...
My dear Mrs. Noble, I assure you that I wouldn't hesitate to call in a whole regiment of specialists if I thought they were needed.
Well, then I don't understand your questions about Larry.
I was only asking to find out if you were quite easy in your mind about your husband's absence right now.
Yes, I am, entirely. I think it was the only thing for him to do. In fact...
Yes?
Nothing.
You see, it's important for you to be easy in your mind, Mrs. Noble. If you are emotionally disturbed, it may retard your recovery.
Well, I'm not. Particularly since you've given me reason to hope that I won't be seriously scarred.
Very well, then. But I want you to tell me if anything occurs to change your peace of mind.
I will, Dr. Allen. But nothing can change it. As long as Larry keeps on writing to me, telling me about his new picture and how enthusiastic he is about everything in Hollywood. I know he's far happier working hard than he could be here in New York worrying about me. You see, I know that I'm being a tremendous burden.
Considering the circumstances, Mrs. Noble, and the fact that you're here in this hospital today because you sacrificed your safety for your husband's sake, I should put all ideas of the cost of your recovery out of my mind.
Oh, it isn't so much the cost, Dr. Allen, but our future happiness. I know in my heart that it would be unbearable for Larry to find in me a living reminder of the reasons for my present condition. I want him to forget about Claudia Vincent and his mistaken loyalty to her. I want to be sure that my face isn't going to be disfigured by scars before I see him again.
And if you couldn't be sure?
But you told me, Doctor. You made me believe
I have said that there is every reason to hope you will make an exceptional recovery. I hope this will be the case. For your sake, and your sake only.
Dr. Allen is now inclined to believe that Rupert Barlow was telling the truth when Rupert said that Larry Noble would never return to his wife if her beauty was disfigured. And at this same time we find Larry in Hollywood, in the hotel suite of his good friend Tom Bryson, the playwright, who is responsible for bringing Larry to the coast. And Larry says,
I won't be needed on the set anymore today, so I decided to drop over to see you, Tom. Since you can't get out with that bad back of yours.
Well, I'm darn glad you did, Larry. How's the picture going?
All right, I guess.
Well, you don't sound very enthusiastic.
No? I'm sorry. I should feel grateful to you for arranging this contract with Marco and Franklin.
No, I didn't mean that, Larry. But I don't like feeling responsible for dragging you all the way out here if you aren't going to be satisfied with the deal.
There's no reason why you should feel responsible, Tom. Since I know it wasn't your idea in the first place.
What do you mean by that? Whose idea do you think it was?
Let's not go into that. I'm sure it's all for the best. And at least it's a way to raise some money in a hurry. And that's important.
Well, yes, of course it is. But it's not as important as a lot of other things, Larry.
What other things?
Why, being out here so far away from Mary. I know it must be terribly tough for you.
That doesn't matter very much, does it? As long as it's the best way out?
Out of what, for heaven's sake? You still talking about your confounded debts?
Yeah, I guess I am, Tom. But maybe not the ones you mean. Not the money I owe. But the debt I can't ever repay as long as I live.
Tom Bryson looks at his friend with concern, but doesn't say any more. For he doesn't know that Larry saw the wire he sent to Mary, which stated that he had arranged for a picture contract for Larry at her request. Be sure to be listening tomorrow to Backstage Wife, the story of Mary Noble and her husband Larry Noble, famous Broadway star.